Hi, this is Mike Langlois, LICSW. Thank you to those of you who submitted ideas for what might be a useful video to talk about social work and technology this week. The one that I wanted to use as the best suggestion, although there were a lot of good suggestions, was from Jonathan Singer's Twitter tweet about asking me for an analysis of the selfie that photographers caught Barack Obama taking with Haley Thorning-Schmidt and David Cameron at Nelson Mandela's funeral service. And this launched a lot of controversy and renewed old posts about selfies at funerals and etiquette and things like that. And so it seemed like that might be a really interesting one to talk about. Because it's a very historic moment. And it's also an example of 21st technology kind of finding some controversy in the midst of perhaps 20th century values. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about, I think from a psychological point of view, the idea of selfies and smartphones as projective devices, meaning that when we see people taking a selfie or we see people using their smartphone, oftentimes without knowing, we're projecting our own interpretations of what they're doing and our own values of what they're doing. That I have not as yet seen any media confirmation or White House confirmation that this was a selfie that was being taken. But it certainly could have been. It certainly could have also been sharing of child pictures, some other interesting piece of information. It could have been a Twitter comment. It could have been something like sharing a photograph that one of them had with Nelson Mandela a couple of years ago. So we're not exactly sure, first off, what this means when we look at these three world leaders holding that smartphone up. But let's assume that it is a selfie. And let's assume that we did happen to see three world leaders involved in taking a selfie at a funeral service. The question then becomes not necessarily is that the right thing or the wrong thing to do, but what does seeing that picture reveal to us about our values? What does it reveal to you about how you think death, dying, and funerals should be treated? What does it tell you about how you think people in position of power should behave? What feelings of outrage or identification or envy come up when you see three world leaders doing something that you may do with friends, but obviously are in more positions of power and authority and prestige? I wonder what kind of things are looking at a selfie picture reveals about us. So that's one of the things I wanted you to think about. What I also wanted you to think about was the idea that funerals are a celebration of the life of somebody, and that there's a large context that this selfie is a very brief snapshot of. This isn't necessarily being taken when a body is being lowered into a grave. It isn't being taken when there is a procession. We don't know exactly the context for when this selfie occurred, but we don't necessarily imagine it in the parts of funeral services or celebrations where people are more casual and informal. Many of us have been to services where there are those pockets of casual time where people connect and meet with each other, often for one of the first times in a long time because they've had to travel great distances. So we shouldn't be necessarily surprised that world leaders also might have those moments or those casual pockets in terms of a celebration. The last thing I would say is I would talk with you about what I see when I see that picture, what my projection is. Because here we have three world leaders, one a white male, another a biracial man, at least partly of African descent, and another a woman, white woman of European descent, all laughing together and experiencing camaraderie and peer leadership at a very prestigious world event. These are three world leaders, and they are laughing and welcoming each other's company. And when you think about the fact that one of the people in that picture is a person of color, what I see in that is progress. What I see in that is a celebration of Nelson Mandela's life, in that we've come to a point in world history where world leaders of various ethnicities can actually not only lead together, but smile and joke and be casual and peers together. And I think that is something that Mandela would be proud of. So when I see that photograph of that selfie, what I see is progress. What I see is globalization, and I see a lot of hope and promise for the future. That's what I see when I look at that selfie, and that's my analysis of it. What's yours?